Hey there, welcome to the Posit Data Science Hangout. I'm Libby Heron, and this is a recording of our weekly community call that happens every Thursday at 12 p.m. US Eastern Time. If you are not joining us live, you miss out on the amazing chat that's going on. So find the link in the description where you can add our call to your calendar and come hang out with the most supportive, friendly, and funny data community you'll ever experience. Can't wait to see you there. All right, with that, I would love to introduce our featured leader today, Kris Fabick, data scientist at Nissan North America. Kris, thank you so much for joining us today. I am so excited to have you. Could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about something you like to do for fun as well?
Sure. So happy to be here. I'm a longtime listener, I guess first time speaker. Uh, but yeah, I work at Nissan. I'm a data scientist. I've been here for about 6 years. And before I came here, I was a high school math teacher. So I did that for a decade. Super fun. Just needed a change. And this has been great. I have a 7-year-old at home that I love to hang out with. She's my favorite person in the world, followed close second by my wife. And we just have a lot of fun. And then outside of work and outside of family, I referee soccer games at a fairly high level. I do high school, college, all the colleges, so division, all the NCAA divisions, NAIA, and then I do semi-professional adult games as well.
That's so exciting. What is the best and worst thing about being a referee?
I'm a team player. I don't remember life before soccer, so I've always like been really good at team team things. I love needing to rely on other people and also them relying on me. And that's really no different as an official. Like it's just a smaller team. There's like 3 or 4 of us. If you don't have a video review, like officials off site doing video review. But it's I love the teamwork and I love getting to meet people from all over the world. Soccer brings people. I mean, I don't travel that far, um, but soccer brings people from all over, all different cultures and backgrounds, and it's super fun
That's
to have that
wonderful.
experience. Yeah. The worst thing, I guess, is there's a lot of pressure sometimes at some of the high level games with everything being on video. It's great. We want to get all of our calls right, but like there's a lot of scrutiny sometimes, and sometimes things are not clear and there are judgment calls. And a lot of, announcers don't know that. They don't always know the rules. And so sometimes, you kind of get a bad draw on something, even though you've done everything within your power. And it really, as someone like my whole job there is to be fair, and sometimes it feels
Yeah,
really bad when I make a mistake. I'm human, I do make them, but sometimes it feels
we
really
all
bad when I
make
make a
them.
mistake, and you know, 35 people on a team plus all of their fans are really angry for a
We're
while.
mad at you.
Yeah,
Well, okay, everybody, you heard it here. Be nice to referees. Some of my best friends are
please.
referees. If you don't know this about me, I used to play roller derby, and in roller derby, we need refs all the time, desperately. So a lot of roller derby players also referee, and yeah, it's a hard job, and the sport doesn't run without them. So be nice to refs. Okay, everybody, let's get a little context for what Kris does so that we can ask good questions in Slido. And actually, the context building that I would like to do today is about Kris's Posit Conf talk. If you do not know, Kris and his co-speaker, who is, I think, Kristen Carr, is that right?
Yes, and she's on
Okay.
the call. She could wave. She's on video right
Yay,
now.
Kristen.
There you
Hey,
go.
Kristen. Oh, I'm such a big fan. I loved your talk. And I think that it's still in being edited. So if you are registered for conf and you see like replays or on-demand videos, I think that Kris and Kristen's talk is still being edited. I just realized your names are both Kris and Kristen.
It worked really
Um,
well for our talk.
yeah, it's so funny. Okay, I would love it if you could both, if you feel like it, give a little recap of your talk. I will just say it was about pair programming, which is one of my favorite topics, and it was a pitch for how pair programming is a can be a mechanism for sustainable deployment. Fantastic topic. Kris, could you give us a little recap?
Yeah, so I mean, it was a 20-minute talk. I'll try to make it a little shorter here.
Yeah,
Um,
abstract level is
yeah,
totally fine.
yeah, yeah. So We really approached the talk with we sort of had two things we really wanted to drive home because a lot of data science, you have these great ideas, right? But then like how do you actually get them to your end users? Like that's always the struggle. And like that's really difficult to teach in school because it depends on like a lot of specific tools that maybe your company has. But going outside of those tools, we wanted to talk about how do you get a business team to be able to deploy something successfully to another business team. So we're very clear about the type of deployment that this is, right? It's not an enterprise level deployment. We work in supply chain. We're trying to deliver like a machine learning model to predict something to help another supply chain user make a better business decision, right? So we're not trying to like predict how many cars are going to be sold in some market for some other sales division, right? Um, and so to do that, we're just I feel like I'm sort of like the captain of like our little data science team here in supply chain. We've got like four data scientists at best, and then a manager, and then like we kind of do a bunch of other things. So we don't have all these enterprise level tools. We don't have this IS support. And so how do we get this tool out there and how are we going to maintain it, right? Because we don't have all those enterprise level tools and support, we're also responsible for that support. And so our solution to that, our team has been really successful in deploying projects using pair programming. And we have come to learn in when we practiced our presentation that it turns out a lot of people don't know what pair programming even is. And so we needed to sort of define that, define what it isn't, and what it is. We used a lot of really cool cat gifs to tell you what it is not. And that was super fun to research at work. We had a great day when we put all those together. But it is essentially just working with a coding partner. It is not necessarily like sitting side by side and like spending your entire day together. Like you go to lunch together and you check your emails together. Like that's not what we're doing. It's really a mindset of like how do you work together with someone else so that you create a redundancy in your project so that you both can address any concerns that come up. You can react quickly to a business need or a change, both in development and then also in deployment, right? So it's the idea of building in human redundancy into your project so that you can safely deploy this thing to the business and then you can still go on vacation because somebody else can cover when you're out.
Right. Which is essential to peace of mind. But also, there are so many, as a teacher, so I come from teaching too. As a teacher, there's so many things that learners and everyday users, even power users of R and Python, do not learn until they see somebody else do it. So you can be pair programming and somebody will click something or do
Right.
something or use a keyboard shortcut, and you're like, wait, what did you just do? I didn't know that was possible. The way that you expand the things that you know in your skill set, I mean, pair programming has got to be at the top of my list for how to do that. It's just so beneficial. I wanted to ask, because in your talk, you talked about needing to pitch this to leadership. You were like, hey, leadership, you're going to have to let two of us work on one thing at the same time, which is going to feel like you're spending twice the resources for the same amount of time. What was the most persuasive thing or metric that you feel like you were able to use to persuade leadership? You talked about a few of them.
Yeah. Kristen presented this slide in our talk, and I think we pulled out three key ones, which was that yes, it is double the resources, but that doesn't mean it's double the time. And so I actually this was the only question that I had time for after the talk, and in hindsight, I was like, I don't think I answered that the right way because somebody was
Now's your
saying like,
chance.
no, you're right. Let me correct it for the record. The question was like, well, so the statistic we reported was there was a group that did sort of a not really a longitudinal study, but a longer term study of the results of pair programming with developers. And what they found was that it does take 15% more time to implement a pair programming project, but that results in 15% less defects in the code. And so one thing we tried to highlight is like 15% less defects is not like equivalent to 15. They don't like balance each other out. Like saving even like 5% of the defects is probably a lot more time than just 15% of the time spent in the project, right? Because you have all these downstream implications, and other teams get involved, and maybe you have production data out there, and it's impacting something like that. And so the question that I got was, I'm surprised that you only said 15%. I would have intuitively thought it would be 100% more time because there's two of you,
Two people.
you
Yeah.
right? And so but I do think the projects go quicker when you're paired, because so I guess maybe I should get into a couple different kinds of pair programming. The most common one is called like driver navigator, where you're actually sitting together. And
Hmm.
even that is going to be quicker because somebody is sort of like, it's like they have a roadmap and they're like, oh, the next thing we're going to need to do is this. And we're probably going to have this little bit of a problem. Let me go see if I can resolve that or think through the next step while you're, coding this previous thing. So it is quicker, I think,
Yes.
once you're in it. But I think what people struggle with is that hurdle of getting into pair programming, because it does take a little bit more time to get started because you're trying to learn each other, right? Like first of all, you like have to get your repo set up and like make sure you can all use Git and collaborate effectively, and then you've got everything named the way you want to. And sometimes you have these conversations about, well, how do you want this organized? Well, I was thinking this and I was thinking this, and you have to compromise, and in the end I think you get a better product, right? Because more than one person has looked at it. Um,
Hmm.
but it certainly can slow you down. Our leadership was not particularly concerned about the resources. Thankfully, we have a pretty young team, and so we had proven ourselves to be really valuable. And they were kind of like, "Hey, if you say this is the right way to go, let's give it a shot." But also, we had previously had a lot of conversations about how are we supposed to maintain this, and for how long do we maintain it for? Like forever. And so how many projects can we accept to maintain without becoming just a maintenance team? And so I think that argument was really pivotal for our leadership. Was the you don't it's you're not stuck. It's not a real risk to deploy this thing, because we had so the particular project we talked about in our talk, Kris and I both are familiar with it. But outside of that, we also have a standardized like team readme, and so we've put enough details in there that anybody on our team could pick it up and
Yeah.
have some context to get going with it. So I think the stability that we were able to sell with pair programming was probably the biggest comfort for our leadership, and they were willing to invest the time, or the sort of the doubled resource um, to get that out, because of
Awesome.
the value in the end.
Yeah. And I agree 100%. And I wanted to also kind of lean into some more of those challenges and benefits because Arsenis just asked a question in Slido that has kind of risen to the top. Don't forget you can vote for questions in Slido if you like them. Arsenis, would you like to hop in and ask that live?
Sure. Hi, thanks, Libby, and thank you, Kris, for joining us today. So my question is, kind of continuing with this pair programming. There's another question in the Slido that's similar, and it's along the lines of what I was thinking. But when I'm writing code, a lot of times I think like I go into a zone and I'm just kind of doing things on my own. I don't want to hear anything from anybody. So I'm wondering, in pair programming, are there any challenges or additional benefits to the individual that you've noticed? Like for me, one of them would be kind of sharing the coding moment, with so like kind of getting out of my own head when I'm writing code. That would be a challenge. But yeah, if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, great question. I think I've definitely had moments where I've sort of been on a pair programming call, and I can't, like, my brain's like not I'm not in it enough to like get to the solution, and then as soon as I get off the call I'm like, oh, let me try this little idea, and I'm like, oh yeah, now I know what to do. And so I think the other thing that we tried to emphasize in our talk is pair programming is not there's not like one way to do it. And so you have to really know like your own strengths as a programmer, and your own weaknesses, right? And so you may have to say, I'm blocked right here. I need to take a break. Let's do this separately. Think about the solution and come back and see what we had together. I think the biggest benefits is what Libby said earlier. Like watching somebody code live, you can really you may end up at the same exact answer, but the way you like literally the keys you typed to get there can be very different, and you can just learn some really cool tricks. Or like someone uses a totally different package than you, and you're like, wait, what's that? I've never even heard of that. And they're like, oh, it's the greatest thing ever. Um,
Yeah.
but I do think that you do have to know when you need a break, but you have to also balance that with like you don't just need a break because it's uncomfortable, because sometimes you need to lean into that discomfort, and that's where you're going to actually like get to the sharp point. Like you're going to iron each other, like you're going to sharpen each other because you're really challenging each other. Like, no, I really thought we should do it this way. Well, I really thought we should do it this way. And instead of just like separating and sort of like presenting like your own business case back to your partner, like you can iron it out together, and you have to be willing to be wrong, right? Or say, I see it that way, you seem really passionate about that, let's try that. Let me set aside what I thought was best and try something else. And I've been I'd like to think I'm a fairly humble person, but I have been even more humbled in pair programming, because there have been times that in my head, I'm like, this is stupid. This is absolutely the wrong way. And then it works beautifully. And I'm like, well, and see, that's why I'm better with someone else.
You know what? I think that one of the benefits for me is that I don't stay struggling forever when I have a mistake, because someone else is going to see it easier than I can if they're navigating. They'll be like, oh, it's that extra space you have around that, whatever
Right.
that thing is. Things that I just wouldn't see. So instead of me staying stuck for 15 minutes trying to figure something out, somebody else can unblock me super quickly. I do experience the same thing you do where I'm like, I just can't figure this out right now, but I know the moment I get off of this call, I'm going to figure it out in 2 seconds. So let's take a 5 minute break and like meet back at the top of the hour. Fantastic question, Arsenis. And Arsenis is going to be our guest next week, everybody. Arsenis is a data scientist at Indeed, and he's going to be joining us to talk about his data science journey and all kinds of stuff that I love to talk about, like figuring out who you are as a data scientist, which has been a journey for me too. Okay, I put another poll in Slido. Um, I wanted to go over the results of the first one. The first one was, have you ever done pair programming at work? Kris, only 25% of people said yes. 75% of them said no, they'd never pair programmed at work. And then our new poll that we have up is, does having someone see or watch you code make you self-conscious? 85% of people said yes. And this is something that I really need to help learners get over a lot when they're first starting, but also seasoned programmers need to get over it. Do you have any tips for that?
I would say find somebody at your work that you respect and that you know will respect you, and try see if you can pair program a little bit with them, just to get the feel for it. Just even if it's just a sort of a, I don't want to say a throwaway, maybe a pet project, right? Something that is not
Low
like
stakes.
business. Yes, that's what we mean. Yes. Something that you're like not sweating, just to see, because sometimes you can hear us say like, oh, it's so cool. But like when you feel that moment, that spark of like, oh, wait, you've been doing that the whole time. I could do that too. It's like, so it's that moment. If anybody's ever taught, it's that moment that you see your students like get it, like, but it's happening inside of you. It's so cool. And so if you can find like I don't want you to just go out and like go to the most intimidating person at your company and be like, let's go. That is not the way to like build your confidence. So find a safe place, make sure that it's a safe place for you. And to be honest, not everybody has. I mean, I've been at Nissan for 6 years, and when I started, there was nobody here that I could pair program with. I was there wasn't even data science as a job title in my area. So you may have to build into it. And maybe you can be the person who is that safe person for someone else. Maybe someone else is interested in learning Python or R or something, and maybe you can just be like, hey, yeah, you could probably do that in Excel. Do you want to do it with me, and we'll do it in R instead?
Right.
Um, and just a little project. Doesn't have to
I think
take forever.
that's a fantastic idea. And I wanted to also sort of get a little bit more context around supply chain stuff. I have a supply chain background from my undergrad. I did operations research and stuff, but I know not everybody does. Could you give just like a super high level overview of like, what does that mean? I
Yeah.
work at Nissan, I'm a data scientist, and I'm in this sort of supply chain area.
Yeah, yeah. So if you think, I'll try to paint you a picture of like think about a process flow here, right? So we
Hmm.
have purchasers, in our purchasing department, and they go and they figure out who they're going to go buy parts from, car parts, right? Wheels, steering wheels, whatever, electrical cords. And so that's purchasing. That is not supply chain yet. Once
Okay.
we have contracts with these suppliers, then we order parts from them, right? And so now we're starting to get into supply chain. So we bring parts from suppliers to the assembly plants. I'm at one of them right now. So that's supply chain. Then the parts are here on our campus and they could be in a couple different locations. Then they eventually go to the manufacturing line and they get put on a vehicle. That is now manufacturing. That is not supply chain either. So supply chain is on the front end bringing parts in. And then after the car is built, there's another supply chain, same supply chain, but another component of supply chain is where we have the finished vehicle and we need to get it out to a dealer. So supply chain sort of, um, it's like we're giving a big hug to manufacturing. We're on the front end of manufacturing, bringing raw parts in, raw parts, and then we build cars, and then we're on the back end where we deliver the finished vehicle. So we have a lot of we have a lot of data. We have a lot of part level data, and then we have a
Hmm.
lot of like vehicle VIN level data. But it's all sort of before it goes into be a it hasn't been bought by a customer generally. So there's not a lot of PII in our data. We don't have customer information because
Right,
it's all pretty
yeah.
much before it's been to the dealer.
And probably some location data too. Like we have this storage location, we have these dealerships. They all exist in different places that are a certain distance away from wherever we need to move things, right?
Yep.
Thank you. I got a question in Slido that is anonymous. It has two anonymous replies on it. Whoever asked this question, this is a great one. It says, in pair programming, is it better to have both devs be at the same level of experience or expertise? And like, how does that play out when they're not the same level? And there are a couple of replies to this, which I think are really interesting. One is like, what if the second party is not a dev? Could it just be like a tech savvy stakeholder? And the other one is, hey, it's a tough thing to judge or measure skill and comfort with programming just casually. Like it could cause discomfort or awkwardness if someone thought that they were the more experienced coder and it turns out they're not. Like I guess these are questions and doubts, right, that kind of bubble up maybe when you're talking about pair programming in an enterprise setting. Do you have any thoughts on those?
Yeah, and I definitely don't think we should be going around labeling people. You're a good dev, and you're a not good dev, and we should pair you together for that reason. That yeah, nobody wants to be judged by
That's probably
their
not beneficial, right?
yeah, no, no, no. And I think the question was something along the lines of like, is it best to like pair people of sort of equal maturity? And I think all the pairings are great. I think you can get things out of all of them, but you probably do want to be intentional with like when do you choose um, more equal maturity pairings and when do you choose a more like upskilling opportunity, right? And so Kristen and I are both data scientists. Both have the same master's degree in data science from the same university. We both we're on the same innovation team. So I would say we are maturity wise we're equal, and so we can do projects a certain way, but I also do a lot of projects. We're like an innovation team in supply chain, but we have like an inventory control team and we have like a finished vehicles team, and so we have like techie people. Maybe they're not quite like a data scientist, but maybe they can program, right? Like they can program in Python, and we want to implement a solution for their business area. My innovation team should not own that solution. That business team in that particular area ideally should own that solution because they know when it's going to need updates. And if they can make that update, my team is off the hook, right? We can go do innovative things. And so I've done a lot of pair programming projects with other business units. Like this would be that like key stakeholder kind of idea where I like physically the first few times I had to do it, I had to stop I like committed to myself before the meeting that I would not share my screen. And it was hard.
Yeah, that
because I'm
sounds
like, no,
painful.
click over there. No, the other one. No, down a little bit, right? And it's tough, but if you don't go through that discomfort, you never let that other person upskill, right? And so, I as I would say, as the lead in that pairing, I tried to be really patient and really have a lot of empathy and just be like, no, you're doing great, a lot of encouragement, and like, look at how far you've come, right? Help them reflect because sometimes when you're in the learning, it's hard to see that you're learning. But if
Yeah,
someone will help you like look back, you're like, oh, actually, yeah, that's pretty cool. So I
I
don't think
totally agree.
I don't think there's a bad way to pair. Um, just if you're yeah, you certainly can do pairings to achieve upskilling, or you can do pairings with more level people to maybe pilot a new innovative thing that your company has never done before. I probably wouldn't use that as an opportunity for upskilling.
I
Hey,
love
Kris,
that.
I think one of the articles that we put in the resource center mentioned that as a strategy, and there were like a few different scenarios that you may choose to pair. I can go look and see if that's in there, but there we did find that in one of the articles that we used.
Yeah,
I love
so
that.
Kristen's referring to there's at the end of our talk we had my GitHub repo, we had a QR code you can scan. So she can find that link and put it in the chat. And it has some articles about pair programming and some other things in there as well.
I think it's important to also remember and recognize that just like with mentoring, you're going to learn bidirectionally in pair programming. So if you are the more experienced programmer, you are probably going to learn things from the less experienced programmer, and being open to that and expecting that and embracing that is going to be mutually beneficial for everybody. I learn things from learners constantly. They're Googling things that I take for granted, right? So they're finding new and different solutions that I don't know exist. Um, it's one of my very favorite things. It's like reverse mentoring. Everybody wins. Okay, let's check out Slido over here. Thank you so much, Anonymous Asker, for your fantastic question. And we had another question. I want to say it was about supply chain. Actually, Rachel had a question about supply chain too. Rachel, did you want to ask that while I'm looking for the question?
Yeah, sure. And thanks, Kris, for explaining some of the supply chain use cases. I always just think it's so fun to get to hear like what are the different problems that people are solving across the industries. And I remember you telling me about like the container fill ratio and that being something that really like opened my eyes to some of the problems solved in supply chain. I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah, we mentioned this we kind of allude to it in our talk. We sort of give that as the example of like, look, we actually, did pair programming in the wild. This is not something we just have, thought about or thought it was fun to talk about. So we bring in these parts from overseas. Some of our parts come from overseas, most of them don't, but some of them do. And they come, I don't know if you've ever seen these pictures of like these massive containers that have all these shipping containers, like these boats that have these big shipping containers on them.
I guess
But
the
that's what they
shipping
come in.
containers really stuck with me because the Posit
Yeah.
office is right on the harbor and I see the shipping
Oh,
containers
yeah.
going right by.
Yeah. Yeah. So those they're literally tractor trailer size, right? The trailers of that, but for shipping, so they're more sturdy. And so we fill those up with parts, but we can't actually fill up the whole container, right? Because there's like air in between these parts. And so we have a KPI that's called container fill ratio, and it's literally just like how much space does the actual material take up divided by the total like actual cubic meters of the whole cube. It's not really a cube, it's a prism, but um and so that's a KPI that we use. And so we needed to predict, we were asked from the business to predict what would that container fill ratio be if we know roughly the demand, right? What do we expect that container fill ratio to be? And that was important for helping our team book containers. They have to like reserve them in advance, the capacity for them, and so they sometimes get these sort of wildly off bookings, and it either costs us money because we have to like, oh no, hurry, we need to scramble and we need a couple more, or it's like we've reserved 7 and we only needed 3 and we just paid for space. So that was we did a machine learning model predict that. So again, like not going, it's a very specific use case, right? Only a couple people need access to it. So we were able to like build it with Posit tools. We used Vetiver, we used Tidy Models, we used Vetiver, and then we published it on our Posit Connect server. And so our business users could just go to Connect and they could like go and see the things real quick and they could get their answer in like 5 seconds. What is the prediction? And then they could make whatever decision they needed to make from that.
Nice, which is like the ultimate goal, right? And
Yeah.
deploying something that other people actually use is like the best feeling ever because so much of what we do as data scientists goes nowhere. It's like a
Yeah.
POC that goes nowhere. I love shipping container problems as an operations research girly. I think one of the most interesting problems ever is how to stack containers once they get into the port because you have all of these
Mhm.
containers coming in off of different ships. They have to be stacked in a certain way so that the ones that are leaving first can be on the top of all of these stacks. Otherwise, what are you going to do? You have to like move a bunch of these containers, unstack them, get to one that's like four down, right? That problem is so mathematically intensive and juicy. Supply chain is such a great place to be if you love math. Also, I have worked on supply chain problems where the problem was packing the container efficiently. We have all these differently shaped things that need to fill this space of cubic meters, and like, how are we going to put it in there the right way so we fit the right amount of stuff in? Very, very juicy. Okay, let's move on. I had a question from Darakshan who asked about stakeholders. Darakshan, are you available to ask live? If you are, that would be amazing. Let's see. Can we find her? Mm.
Hi everyone.
There she is. Hey, would you like to ask
Yes,
your question live?
yes. So, like whenever we talk about data science, the output we are getting, uh, the basics is clear, like setting clear expectations, right? So my question was on this, like how as a peer programmer, you set realistic expectation from the stakeholder. How do you manage the communication gap? Like when we talk about for one person perspective, so that's one thing, but when there is a peer, so I was just want to know from this perspective. So communication and setting expected setting expectations, that's it.
That's a good question. Like, are both people, if two programmers are pair programming and working on a project at the same time, do they always communicate with the stakeholder at the same time?
This is a good question. Let me think about it for a minute. In a lot of our pair programming applications, the stakeholder is there. Okay. I also need to clarify that sometimes when I say pair programming, I mean like 4 people. We are working on a project right now where Kristen and I are working as like the technical like data science side of the pairing, and we want redundancy there for business reasons. And then there's a business stakeholder side, and we need their input because like they know all the business logic, and like we don't know, like we need them to make a decision on, hey, this supplier is in Kentucky. Is Kentucky considered in the South region or is that in the North region? Like we don't know. And we need them there to like make those choices. And they're like, well, it depends. Sometimes it's been in the North and sometimes it's been in the South. And we're like,
Yeah.
well, what business logic do you actually want us to implement going forward? And they're like, I don't know. Let me think about it. So sometimes our stakeholders are part of that pairing. They may not be part, like we may have separate coding sessions, but we generally, yeah, I think I'm talking myself into the answer here. We generally have both both pieces of the pairing in those stakeholder meetings. And I think that's valuable for a couple of reasons. One, I have a really bad memory, so I forget a lot of things. And it's really helpful to have somebody else come in and be like, hey, also don't forget about that one thing that we had a problem with and we solved it this way. And I'm like, oh, great, thank you for that. Um, and also, I think sometimes just different personalities go better with different stakeholders, right? So while I like to think that I'm approachable, I'm going to be honest. I think there are a couple people at Nissan that think I'm not approachable, but maybe they think Kristen
No.
is approachable, and so maybe they're more willing to like engage in a conversation with her for whatever reason. So
I think
yeah,
that
I think
that's totally valid.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, we definitely like to communicate early and often, and especially if that news is potentially unwelcome. We're not like we're just going to try to hide this unwelcome thing until the end and hope you don't notice it. We'd like to call it out at the beginning, and say, hey, you told us there was seasonality. This happens to me all the time about this one data set at Nissan. You told me there was seasonality in this data. Here's the graph of that data. Can you show me where you see that seasonality? Because you're wanting me to put seasonality into this model because you have a gut feeling about it, but like I don't actually see it. And so I'm mathematically not inclined to include this because I can tell you that I don't think it's going to help. And so we just try to have early communication often, and we do try to include as many people as have knowledge of the project that could offer something. Does that answer the question?
I think so, yes. And
Okay.
Deduction I see is giving us a clapping emoji.
Cool.
So I'm going to say that she's saying yes. I did not know that pair programming might have meant 4 people. I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking pair equals 2. That's really, really interesting. I also think it's so super valid that like you may not be the right person to slot in and talk to that stakeholder, but having more people who know the same amount about the project as you could be really beneficial because like, hey, that person seems to really gel with my partner, but not me. What a relief to not have to worry about that in the communication aspect. Also, Mark Ricky put the most upsetting thing in the chat. Everybody, can everybody see the most efficient way to pack 17 squares inside of another square? It's awful. Everything is jumbled and backwards. I'll be sure to share that with you if you haven't seen it, Kris, later in an email, but I don't know if you're looking at the chat.
Yeah, I'm
Anyway,
not. I can't keep up with the chat when I'm just
I
listening.
it's okay.
So I definitely
Mark
can't when I'm
saying
speaking.
I
he's so
recommend
sorry.
that, Kris. I don't know how
Yeah.
Libby can do both at once.
My brain is very special. Okay, let's move on to a question that we always have to get in, which is an AI question. And this time, Mike asked it. Mike, would you be willing to ask your question live? What a silly question. I know you are, or you will be.
Hello.
There he is. Hey, Mike.
So yeah, it's the obligatory AI question, I'm afraid. Do you think that AI, and specifically things like Copilot, might be able to replace some aspects of pair programming?
I'm hesitant to just like flat out say no because I believe that I have room to learn. So I'm sure that probably there are some maybe just offering different coding options. But I do not think that it is an equivalent replacement for another human who, as we've just talked about, right, has different personality traits and like can talk to stakeholders. Like your AI cannot talk to your stakeholders, or maybe I would not recommend you have your AI talk to your stakeholders about your project. Maybe it could. But yeah, certainly I think like Copilot can help you with like code suggestions, and I would argue like do that in your pairing. I wouldn't say like you have to do them. They're not even like separate things, right? Like I would do both, but I still think having two different like thought processes about how to like what's your next step in the project, because generally when we talk to AI about coding stuff, it's like a specific thing that we're asking it to do, but like the project is probably a bunch of specific things layered together. And I think to have the redundancy, you certainly don't get any redundancy. And like I wanted to lean into something, Libby, that you said something about what a relief, and I can tell you that the most the I kept wanting in our talk, I kept having to tone it down because Krista was like, that's not the point. But like I kept wanting to go like just tell everybody like how great pair programming is, because like you can just like relax. Like it's not all on you. And in fact,
Yeah.
none of it's on you. Like you have officially like documented it and like created that redundancy. So like you're not the only person who can do things. And you certainly don't get that with AI, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree because it is still on you. You are still the only responsible party when you're using
And
AI. AI is not going to take on any of the responsibility.
And when I use AI to help my code, I actually know less about it. And so if someone's like, oh, like
Same.
now can you change it to do this? I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Let me ask
Let
the AI
me
if it can
go
do that.
find out, right?
What a
Because I
good
don't
point.
always know every single thing that was coded. And I think I'm I'm pretty cautious in that regard. I'm pretty hesitant to like put that in my production tools, because if I don't know what it's doing and I can't explain that to my stakeholders, that comes back. I look like an idiot.
Right. Yeah.
Rightfully so.
This is one of those things where it's like we're trying to move towards the future and have things coded for us and we don't have to do all of it. But that means that we have to be comfortable with not knowing how every single thing is working and being able to vouch for it, which freaks me out. I'm seeing people shake their heads in their cameras, which like I get it. Yeah, that's a icky feeling as a developer. Um, okay. Fantastic questions are coming in. They're so, so good. Oh, you know what? This is while I'm breaking here, let me mention Posit Discord. We last week put out a link that was like, hey, join. Here it is again, really quickly, in the chat for you. This link is going to be up for only a few hours. So if you have not yet joined the Posit Discord, it is invite only right now. This is your invite. Get on the Posit Discord server. Very, very important. I have side quests for you if you're going to do this. Get on the server, change your name, your display name to be your real name, because I see your real name in Zoom. I'm not going to recognize you if you have a screen name. And then make your way to the Data Science Hangout channel and ping me. Like, highlight, send a message, do something to say, hey, I'm here from the Hangout. I'm going to change your name to yellow, give you a little badge for the Data Science Hangout. It's very special and fun, so please go do that. We would love to see you. We can continue these conversations after the Thursday. And while everybody is doing that, Kris, I wanted to ask you what we ask everybody on the Hangout, which is, do you have a piece of career advice that has really stuck with you or that you like to give people that you find impactful? I'll put you on the spot for a second.
Yeah. We have a lot of interns that come through our supply chain area, and so I actually get this question a lot from them, because they sort of see my role as data scientist, and maybe that's what they are interested in doing. And the advice that I typically give them is like, try not to just go too deep into like the newest thing right now, which, if we're being honest, is just AI. Like that's it. That's the only topic. And try to like spread yourself out. Like be able to play any position on the team, which means you need to understand math, like really understand the math that's happening, so that when someone says like, oh, this model seems to be under predicting all the time, what do you think about that? You have something that you can say about that, because you've looked at the data and you understand like why is there a bias in that model, and what models might not have a bias in that same way, right? So understanding math. I know a lot of people just sort of equate data science to like machine learning and AI, and that like boils my skin, because there's so much more to good data science than just that. So I have a degree in math. I really love like operations research and like mathematical optimization. So like that's not a thing. That's not for everybody, but like that's a data science skill set that, if you want to be able to offer a lot of different solutions, like that's an area you can focus on learning. Also like learning how to communicate with people and like tell a story, like how to build proper visualizations. Like these may not seem as like cool, or like they're not like home runs, because they're not like the hottest thing right now, but they are like fundamental and foundational, and that's the stuff that people learn to trust you with. If they can trust you with like a visualization, then maybe they can trust you with this black box machine learning model.
What a good lead into another Posit Conf speaker, because Kieran Healy from Duke University did the closing talk of Conf on trust and visualization, data visualization and trust. It was such a good talk. Oh my gosh. Once that one comes out for everybody, you have to go watch it. Plus, Kieran is just hilarious. And you can watch his Data Science Hangout episode too, which was a while back with Jonathan McPherson. Kris, I wanted to ask a quick rapid fire fun one, because Nellie asked, have you ever done any fun data stuff related to your refereeing? I want to know too.
I have. I'm excited about this. It's like both my things all put together. That's so exciting. Yes. So college soccer in the United States, and there's basically two organizations that assign referees to college soccer games. Okay, one is called Elite College Soccer Referees, and the other one is called the National Intercollegiate Soccer Officials Association. And if you look at my profile picture for this Hangout thing, I'm actually wearing a Nisoa polo. That's my professional headshot from them. The NISOA group is the longer standing one. They're the bigger one. And they collect data about their officials through when we like register with the NCAA. We have to like register on this platform, and they get some like demographic data and some things like that. So I got connected with the executive director of NYSOA, and she actually refereed the Women's World Cup final in 2023, 2024. I don't remember what year it was. I'm really sorry. But yeah, Tori Penso, she's amazing. And so she's the executive director of NYSOA, and I know her personally, and so she like was like, "Oh, you're a data scientist. Can you do something with this data? Like, I want to know things." And I was like, yes, I can. So I took they took out the PII. Like I needed like city and state level. So like honestly, there's like 5,000 people in like the whole country that referee college soccer games. So like I could probably figure out like the people in my area, but like I didn't look at it. But they took out the names, and so like I had like age, I had ethnicity, I had race, I had years officiating, I had like their location, which was important because she wanted to see like how far away are like the national assessors from like the national referee. It's kind of anyway. So yeah, I took all that data, and they were basically like, just go like see what you find and present back to us. So I did this. I actually worked with I did that in pair programming too. I didn't even know it. There was an intern who was working at University of Texas San Antonio, I think,
That's
who
my
I got
school.
connected with. Oh, I got connected with her through another person I know from NYSOA, and she was like, "Hey, I have this person. She needs to do a data something internship or like project. Can you guys do this together?" And I was like, "Absolutely, let's do it." So like I worked with her, and like we cleaned the data a little bit. We put it into Tableau, and we did some analysis. It was pretty much just building a bunch of visualizations. But then she and I presented that to the executive board at their like annual meeting or whatever, and I continued to meet people from the executive board, and they're like, "Oh, you did that, was amazing," like because it was the first time they had ever looked at their data. Can you believe it? In
Yeah.
like 2023, it was the first time they had ever looked at their data, and they could see, oh, 7% of our officials are women, and more than 50% of the games we assign are women's soccer games, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
We should be aware of the differences, right? Like how are we gonna make goals for ourselves if we don't know where we're at? So that was super fun to do. Totally just did it on the side. But yeah, loved it.
Well, what a super fun question, Nelly. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah.
I loved it. And this is a really good example of like something I've been talking with a lot of people about lately is giving talks, doing things on the side. Presentations are really stressful and time consuming sometimes. Even just like giving a Posit conf talk, it takes a lot of your time and your effort. And so, what are the benefits of that? What do you see from that? It's that exposure to people seeing you do this work. Other people are probably doing it and not talking about it. If you do it and you talk about it, you put yourself out there in a really great way and make all kinds of fantastic connections. Um, and you don't even have to be the best or the brightest or the most talented at something. If you're the one talking about it out loud and brave enough to do that, you're the one who gets the opportunities. So, really, really working out loud is so beneficial, and I encourage everybody to do what Kris did. And so fun to hear that I might have been somebody from my alma mater. That's great.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
so fulfilling too. To
it is. Oh,
if
for
you're
sure.
if you're doing it on the side, you have some sort of passion for it, and it's fun. It's fun to get feedback that other people are like, "Oh, I'm interested in hearing about that."
Yes, yeah. Oh, this thing that I love is beneficial
Yeah,
to somebody.
yeah.
Woohoo. Well, we have 5 minutes left. Do you think that we could get in one more question? Let's see. Let's see what we can fit in here. Adam, you had asked a question. Adam T, if you are here, you could ask that live real quick.
Hi everybody, and hi Kris.
Hey, Adam.
Basically, hello. I was basically wondering how you balance the time that gets added on with pair programming with tasks that need to be done quickly, because I completely support upskilling. If you've got a less experienced programmer with you, or if I happen to get somebody who's more experienced, which is a wonderful thing for me, but it kind of adds on to their time load, and I don't really want to hold them back or anybody else in the workflow. So do you have a system of organizing tasks so that you don't accidentally put something to a pair and then say, great, you all get to learn from this at the expense of holding somebody else up?
Yeah, no, our system is really just a vibe system right now. It's really just checking in, and trusting people to do their jobs and know their boundaries. And so, yeah, I mean, I think there are certainly times when we get a request and I'm like, oh, I really should include these other people on like fixing this, but like they need this done now. I'm gonna fix it. And then later I'm gonna go back, and when they have time, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna show them what I did and maybe have them like rerun it and like check it out. So we actually there's a name for this, and we lean into this in our talk as well. This is called refactoring, which is we didn't know. I'm gonna define it because we didn't know what it was when we were researching for our talk, but it's the process of going back and like reviewing your code and making it more accessible and like readable, and like maybe adding those comments and stuff. And so one of the other approaches to pair programming is not sitting together side by side. It's actually what we call in our presentation as unstructured asynchronous, where you're actually separating from each other, and maybe you're doing different components of the project individually, but you will come back together to refactor. And as long as you're refactoring together, we believe if you're like Kris and I are sort of on the same level of like maturity, I don't need to watch her type everything, but I can go back and look at her code and I can say, oh, I see what you did here. Did you think about doing this here? Or, oh, that's unclear to me. Can we add a comment? Because I wasn't sure what that code was doing. And that then you still get that redundancy with less of that time burden. So I think the big takeaway is like pair programming can look like anything you want it to look like, as long as at the end of the day, my analogy in our talk is that everybody should be able to ride the bike.
Right. Yeah, I love that. And for anybody who doesn't have the context of Kris and Kristen's talk, they do go over the different types of pair programming, and different projects or different tasks might warrant a different level of pair programming, up to and including asynchronous, so that you are just like passing things back and forth over a net and refactoring after each other or checking things, which I think is great. Okay, we only have 2 minutes left, but I'm wondering if we can just do one more mention for the data science or the Posit Discord server. I saw a bunch of people tag me, like 7 people tagged me in the data science hangout channel. Some of you already have yellow names. That means that either someone's making you yellow already or I did it. Like Greg, hey, Greg Termel, you were already yellow. I got you. I would love it if you could join the hangout channel on the server. I'm going to put the link in one more time to join the Posit Discord server. Reminder, this is only open for a few hours. We're invite only right now. Make your display name your real name so I know who you are, and tag me in the Data Science Hangout channel so I can give you a role. Okay, this was a fantastic Data Science Hangout. Kris and Kristen both, thank you so much for being here. This is one of my favorite topics. I would love to continue this conversation in the Posit server, so hop in there so we can chat about it. Thank you so much, Kris. Would you like to say goodbye to everybody? Kristen, too, if you would like to.
Yeah, this was so fun. I love this group. I love the energy. I love the positivity. And I appreciate all of you for your contributions, and just thanks for making it so fun.
Wonderful. Thank you all for being here. If you would like to catch Kris's talk, it is still being edited and will be up on demand on our platform quite soon, I hope. And then all the talks will be up sometime in December. We need time to edit them all and fix the captions and everything up on our YouTube channel. So you can look forward to that. If you saw good things in the chat today that you want to save, you can click the 3 dots at the top right of the chat to save it. I will give you a second to do that as everyone is hopping off. I'm seeing lots of clapping and thank yous. If you're not looking at the chat, Kris, the thank yous are rolling in waves. I think everybody had a really good time today. I saw lots of nodding in the chat. Thank you, Kristen, as well, for joining us and helping add context and stuff. Everybody, as a reminder, we'll see you next week with Arsenis, data scientist from Indeed. We love seeing you. Say hi to me on LinkedIn. In the meantime, if you send me a connection request, please put a note on it saying you're from the Hangout, and I will see you on the Discord server. Bye-bye, everybody. See you next week.